Hello, Planeswalkers. Tyler here.
And Andrew.
And it's been a while since we've done a Taps for Two with just us.
I know, I was just thinking that earlier.
Our last our last 6 or so episodes we've had guests. Which is, it's funny that I say that because I'm actually recording with a guest later this week. Lee and I are going to record Zendikar, D&D, stuff like that. Anyway, it is the spooky month.
It's October.
It is. When you're listening to this, it is October. Hello from the past. No. No, but we figured in honor of the spooky month, and because we love lore and flavor so much, we would sit down for, 45 minutes, hour or so, and just, talk about some of our favorite, creepy, kind of disturbing lore or, creature implications. And, obviously, you and I were talking before we started recording, we have vampires and zombies, but, there's a lot of oozes that are real creepy the more you think about them. Because, you've got some that are fine, like corrosive ooze. Okay, that's just a gelatin, or that's just an ooze from D&D. It destroys equipment. It's whatever. But then you've got what one did I want to grab? We've got necrotic ooze, who has all the activated abilities of all creature cards in all graveyards. And based off its artwork, it appears that it is sucking in bodies, and that's how it has the abilities. But we'll get into that later. But yeah, just our favorite little creepy bits of flavor, the reason, there's a specific vampire I wanted to talk about, and it's a vampire everyone knows, but with how I'm gonna say it is not Sorin. It is probably the second most famous vampire in this game, and it's Olivia Voldaron.
Yeah.
And then zombies, the scarecrows are creepy, and then you wanted to talk about Eldrazi and Slivers, which
yes.
I'm starting things, and I've got oozes open. Here, I'll send you the link to the page that I'm looking at right now to make things a little easier. So I like oozes. I really do. I'm glad that they have they have two legends. They've got Experiment Kraj, and they've got the Mimeoplasm or the Mimeoplasm. Mimeoplasm is obviously going to be better because it gives you access to black. But I guess there's 3 legendary oozes. There's Prime Speaker Vanifar, but I don't think she counts. But
yeah.
Yeah, she's more elf wizard than she is ooze. But they're I like them. I like their design because some of them just straight up look like Jello. Look at the Bloodhall ooze.
This is in alphabetical order, right?
Yes, it should be second row.
Oh
far
yeah.
Left.
Oh, that's gross.
A drop of blood spilled from the first dragon. But some of these
wasn't.
The more that you look into them, consumptive goo. It's 2 over. Black for a 1/1 ooze. Target creature, so for 2 black, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on the ooze. So on the surface, that's whatever. It's a really slow, inefficient way to put counters on a thing. But think about it. Think about what its name is. So consumptive, it's eating. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, implying it's taking a piece of them that theoretically, when you get a cut or a scrape or something, it scabs over and then it heals. So theoretically, like, wounds heal, but this thing's getting a +1/+1 counter, so it's taking a piece of you and eating it.
Ugh.
And if it does it enough times in one turn, it will eat you entirely.
Yeah,
but it's
gross.
almost like it's almost farming you.
Oh, I don't like the language there.
Well, it's like Marvel Zombies. What Giant Man did to Black Panther. He keeps a human Black Panther around and eats little bits and pieces of him. Because when the zombies actually get to eat flesh, like, they kind of regain control of their senses. And so he ends up, like, eating, like, almost all of T'Challa's arm and one of his feet before he finally gets caught. But that's more or less what this thing is doing.
Ugh. Yeah, a lot of these are gross. Ravenous ooze draws my eye.
Ravenous ooze.
Just towards the bottom.
Oh. Ravenous ooze or ravenous slime?
Sorry, ravenous slime, you're right.
Okay, the one that's in a graveyard and has 3 skulls and bones sticking out of it.
Yeah. So, it's either grave robbing or it killed those people.
It's grave robbing. If a creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile it and put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to that creature's power on Ravenous Slime. It's grave robbing. They die, it consumes their body. Because, with Magic in, like, the graveyard, like, you can revive things. So, like, the graveyard is almost seen as, like, a physical place.
Yeah.
But because this thing is exiling them, you can't get them back because it's eating their body and there's nothing to revive. Scavenging Ooze is kind of a similar way with single green, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on the ooze and gain 1 life. In nature, not a single bone or scrap of flesh goes to waste. It can eat anything, but if it eats meat, then it gets bigger and it gets healthier.
Yeah. The slimes are real. They just eat things.
That's kind of their whole deal, except for Umori. Umori just wants to collect things. He's so cute.
A collector.
But there was, I think, one more ooze that I wanted to talk about. It's the where is it? Consumptive, corrosive. So, I mean, first off, there's gobblingoohs, which green, sack a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on gobblingoohs. I don't even think that one's creepy, just because it's straight up telling you what it's doing. Like, it's eating you. You're feeding stuff to it to make it bigger. Whereas, like, the consumptive goo is, like, you have to think about what it's doing, and it's like, this thing is farming me. But Experiment Kraj, he has the activated abilities of each other creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. And for tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So because he's an ooze, it's kind of like he's taking off a piece of himself and planting it on things. But because he's probably a hive mind, whatever
kind of
he's attaching
them.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, it's creepy.
It's an ooze mutant from Ravnica, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
the cynic.
He was made by Momir Vig, who I think was in charge of the Simic at one point. That's really all I had to say about oozes. I think the oozes are really cool, just because, like, I like their design, and they're just, on the surface, they're way less creepy than you'd think, but then the moment you, like, dig just a little bit, you're like, oh no.
It's a lot of nope.
Yeah, it is. I also wanted to do vampires real quick, and then we can move on to Slivers and Eldrazi, mostly because there's a vampire here I specifically want to talk about in regards to your Taste the Cardboard about.
Yes.
So you remember how you were? So it's on the second or third page. I think it's the second page. It's the Keru Mind Eater. It's at the very, very top row, far right.
You said it's the second page?
Yeah, 121 through 180. So it might be. No, it's the third page. Where you should have Kalidas, Trader of Get, Kazarov, Keru Bloodsucker, and Keru Mind Eater.
That is the second page.
It is the second page?
Yes.
Okay.
So which one are we looking at?
Keru Mind Eater. Top row, far right. So first off, the Tarkir vampires are like we can all just agree vampires are like unsettling. Like,
yeah, but
right?
It seems like the Tarkir vampires are more beastly.
Yeah, no, Keru Bloodsucker is literally got your face, but
it's kind of the exact opposite of Ixalan vampires.
Oh yeah, the Conquistadores.
Yeah.
But Keru Mind Eater. So 2 and a black for a 1/3 vampire with Menace. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles a card from his or her hand face down. You may look at and play cards exiled with Keru Mind Eater. In your Taste the Card board, you talk about mill, and you talk about what cards in your hand and what cards in your deck represent.
Yes.
With cards in your hand, I believe, representing your current thoughts.
Yes.
And your deck representing your memories. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Draw from. Yes.
Because his name is Mind Eater, and he's exiling cards from the hand that he can later use. The dude is sucking your brain.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's like there's a Bloodborne monster that just sucks your brain. It's like that.
Oh, but why though? Why it be that?
Because it's Bloodborne and it's Gothic horror, and it actually is pretty similar to Innistrad, because they're both Gothic horror.
Yeah. Even though this specific vampire isn't from Innistrad, but like the Keru vampires, I don't like. I mean, I love them. Let me rephrase that. I love them. I love their design. I mean, I don't like them in that, like, if my options are facing down, like, the Legion Conquistador, the Knight of the Ebon Legion, or the Keru Bloodsucker, I'm either going to throw myself on the Ebon Legion sword, or that Conquistador can stab me with that pike. Because I do not want to mess with Mr. Steal Your Face.
Yeah.
Like, look at his hair. Like, he's got
I'd rather you didn't draw my attention to it, if I'm being honest.
So its hair is kind of like kind of like that girl from The Ring.
Yeah.
But if you look, it looks like the face that it has stolen also has hair.
Hold on, let me... Oh. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'd say that those are the most disturbing vampires I've seen in this game.
Yeah, no, because, like, every plane that has them does them a little bit differently. I mean, I will point out, scroll down, there's the Moroi from Ravnica. It's 2 blue-black, and apparently it's a vampire.
The Moroi.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows down. Right next to... Yeah, apparently that's a vampire.
In some universe it is.
There was one other vampire I wanted to talk about before we moved on, and that's the original Olivia Voldaron. Which I don't know if I would necessarily... She's going to be same column as Moroi, but 1, 2, 3, 4 down. Because there's Olivia mobilized for war, but I want to talk about Olivia Voldaron. I don't know if you could exactly call what she does creepy, but just because, like I was talking about earlier, just like the flavor of what vampires are is already unsettling. She's kind of the peak of that. Because you've got 2 black-red for a 3/3 vampire. She's got flying because, vampires can fly. Does. 1 in a red. Olivia Voldaron deals 1 damage to another target creature. That creature becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Put a +1/+1 counter on Olivia Voldaron. She bit them. She bit them. She turned them into a vampire. If they're strong enough to survive the bite, so if they've got more than 1 toughness, they survive as a vampire. But she can also bite them repeatedly. So she kind of gets to pick if she wants them to live or not. However, 3 black, gain control of target vampire for as long as you control Olivia Voldaron. She then takes the vampires that she has sired.
Takes control over them. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also just now realizing that Olivia's Dragoon's horse has its face has no skin.
Yeah. I am also just now noticing that. Thank you.
Yeah. Nah, it's weird. Like,
you don't have to tell me that.
Hold on. Are there any vampires you wanted to talk about while we're here?
Not vampires, no. I wasn't really prepared to talk about vampires myself.
Let me just make sure real quick. Skeletal vampire is a vampire skeleton. That's just delightful. Oh, I actually lied. There is one more vampire I wanted to talk about. Where is he? Vampiric dragon. No. It's from Shadows. So it's from Shadows over Innistrad. And is it at the beginning? Let me find it real quick. It's a flip vampire. So it's got a front face and a back face. I'm just like blanking on its name right now. Elusive Tormentor. It's on. So we were on the 3rd page before, because the 2nd page is 61 through 120.
Oh, you're right.
So Elusive Tormentor is on the 2nd page. He's on the far left, and he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. 2 black for a 4/4 vampire wizard, and for 1 and discard a card, transform Elusive Tormentor. And it transforms into Insidious Mist. An 0/1 hexproof indestructible elemental. It cannot block and it cannot be blocked because it's mist. But whenever it attacks and it isn't blocked, you may pay 2 and a black if you do transform it. So it's this idea of, because we all know like the famous thing of like a vampire turning into a bat, and there are some vampires in the game that do that. But I guess another part of the lore is that there's other things they can turn into, and I guess mist is also a really popular one.
Yeah, I think Dracula could do that.
Yeah, and so you've got this thing that, it's a wizard, so you pay 1 and you discard a card, so it's kind of like, you're using reagents to cast a spell, and it just turns into this cloud of mist. That it's hexproof because what her spell's going to do to it. It's indestructible because what her spell's going to do to it. It can't block because what is it going to do to anything? And it can't be blocked because it's mist. I tried to block it, but I missed.
I missed.
And then, but it's sentient. Because it's still the Elusive Tormentor.
Ooh, this card might be interesting in a mutate deck. Actually.
Flip it and then just leave it that way.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish Luna.
Mutate something on top of it.
I think only Brokos and
Otrimi.
Well, I'm looking at just the apexes, but Brokos might be the only one of the 5 apexes that can run this.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Anyways.
So it turns into this mist, but it's sentient. So you can change it back, because when it attacks, and it's not blocked, and it can't be blocked because it's mist, it changes back, and it's just, surprise, I'm a vampire. And then it's a 4/4, so it's going to hit you.
Yeah, it's me. And then he stabbed me.
So yeah, it's just, I like these little nods to actual real world mythology and kind of how they come across and I love the transform mechanic, just all in all. Like werewolves I think are like a home run. I almost said a slam dunk in the park, and I was like, all of what I just said is wrong. But yeah, no, and then just the amount of vampires that have to do with life manipulation, just, life gain, life loss, that play around with that. That's, like, from a mechanic standpoint, you're like, okay, life gain, whatever. But, like, from a flavor standpoint, it's all blood.
Yeah.
This man's name is Epicure of Blood, and whenever you gain life, each opponent loses a life. Where did you get that life from? Evidently, your opponents.
Yeah.
Also, Erdwal Ripper is just uncomfortable to look at.
Erdwal Ripper.
It's right next to Epicure of Blood, who's right next to Elusive Tormentor. It's the one red.
Oh, she's lanky. Oh. I don't like it.
Savage vampires lurk in the Erdwal's network of passageways where prey is plentiful and easy to catch. But anyway, what I'm interested in now is you wanted to talk about Eldrazi's, which when you had initially brought it up, when I was like, hey, what if we talk about this tonight? You had mentioned Eldrazi, I was like, okay. I mean, they're more like outwardly terrifying than they are anything. But then the more I thought about it, it's like, because they're based off H.P. Lovecraft.
They are cosmic horror.
And yeah, the whole creepy aspect is literally what that mythos is based off of. You want to send me the whatever page you're looking at for?
Oh, I had just opened a bunch of tabs with individual cards.
Fantastic. I'm just going to look up Eldrazi on Scryfall then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there are these different Eldrazi broods. First off, they come from in between planes.
I thought you were about to say, first off, they come in flavors, and I was like, don't.
They come from in between the planes, and they're just these unknowable, like, immense beings that are unfathomable. Like, I mean, just their names are really indicative of that. Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, Emrakul, the Aeons Torn. These are really good cosmic horror names.
Yeah.
Some other ones that I like are like Endless One and Deathless Behemoth. They're just
the implication that they're not gonna go away.
Yeah, that they cannot be destroyed. Eventually they are, but they cannot be destroyed, and they don't care about the things that they're destroying. They're just doing it because they feel like it, or because it's what they're meant to do. Or
right.
That's their whole purpose. And it's just the thought that, oh my god, these things don't even care about what they're doing. They just want everything dead, and they want to consume all.
That's just, I think that's the more unsettling bit, is I don't even think they want everything dead. Because
I don't think they want, really.
Well, so, because during the story of Eldritch Moon, Jace ends up mentally connecting with Emrakul. And
Yes.
though in his mind, the only way he can perceive her is as the goddess Emiria, which is what the Zendikaris refer to her as. And while the two sit down and are playing chess, and she admits to him that she doesn't even realize that they're there. Like, just the fact that, like, they being the Gatewatch, she doesn't even, like, register mortal beings because she is so vast, powerful, and unknowable.
Yeah.
And that just makes everything that they do more upsetting.
Yeah, they're so above they're so above even perceiving mortal beings. That is the most cosmic horror thing I feel like they could have done with the Eldrazi. It's so good.
Yeah,
like,
no, just like because there's that latent human fear of that we're gonna be like alone in the universe. I mean, I feel like there's the fear that we're either alone in the universe or that we aren't.
Yeah, and it's almost scarier to think that we're not.
Exactly, and it's not even just like it's scary to think about that there's other life out there, but you're right. Like the scariest bit of that is thinking about that there could be life out there that like we don't even register as a blip on the radar. They could just like pass through and just wipe out everything and not even
think about it.
Exactly. Man,
like it's like they're just forces of nature.
They're even beyond that. I also just want an excuse to say Distended Mindbender. The Eldrazi on Innistrad.
Yeah.
Distended Mindbender is an Eldrazi insect from Eldritch Moon. It's just this the emerge mechanic, just since we're here, is just creepy. So Distended Mindbender, I almost called it Distended Mindbender again. Distended Mindbender, 8 generic for a 5/5 Eldrazi insect, but it's got Emerge for 5 black. You may cast this spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the Emerge cost reduced by that creature's converted mana cost. When you cast this spell, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose from it a non-land card with CMC 3 or less, and a card with CMC 4 or greater. That player discards those cards. So there's a lot to unpack here. First off, Emerge. Like, there's cards that require like you to sacrifice as additional costs, and for the most part it's like it's whatever. Like there's the Devour mechanic, which kind of is self-explanatory. Like the dragon with Devour entered the battlefield, you fed some goblins to it, and now it's bigger. Emerge.
Yeah.
The implication that this Eldrazi is like ripping itself out from the inside of whatever creature you had in play.
Yeah, it's just body horror. Like I cursed. Like Alien.
Oh yeah,
like those movies.
Yeah, but then again, playing back into like this guy specifically, playing back into the idea that your hand is the thoughts that's currently, your hand are currently the thoughts that are in your head, and the fact that it rips 2 cards, a small one and a big one.
Yeah.
It's tearing out, it almost feels like it's tearing out a short-term memory and a long-term memory.
Ooh. That's an interesting way to think about it.
Because you figure the lower casted stuff that's smaller, like you can cast quicker, so it's like, oh yeah, I can remember this, whatever. But then like the bigger stuff, you kind of need to build up to. So yeah, the fact that it's specifically getting something small, so like it could tear away the love of your significant other that you've known for 6 months, and then follow that up with tearing away the love you've had for your mother since you were born.
God, you're doing my my Taste the Cardboard better than I did.
Well, you talked about them in Taste the Cardboard like as a whole. I'm specifically looking at this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no.
the there's some other Eldrazi spells I wanted to look at, like a really good example is Brisella, Voice of Nightmares.
Oh.
It's an example of the Eldrazi warping things. It's also hinted at with the other Kozilek card, the Great Distortion, that they're not just devouring the plane, they're warping it.
Kozilek's name, so all 3 Titans consume differently. That's where Kozilek's name comes from. Ulamog like consumes like physical matter and replaces it with like a chalky dust. Kozilek and his brood like literally distort space around them, to the point where the other big thing about that brood is they have the obsidian blades that are like on their arms, or
that are just they're made of the blind eternities.
Yeah, they are
right?
holes in space-time. And the moment like because nothing can survive in the blind eternities, when they cut through something, they just kill absolutely. And then Emrakul warps living matter, which is why she was mutating everything. But I do get where you're coming from.
I think it's why they made the design choice to have Emrakul on Innistrad, because it works so well. It takes the plane from being like classic gothic horror to being fully cosmic horror, to being like exactly what Bloodborne is, basically.
Yeah, we went from Dark Souls to Bloodborne.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have like vanilla Innistrad has all these vampires and werewolves already,
and demons,
which I'm excited to go back to next in a year from now.
Yeah.
And demons. But then Emrakul shows up and is just warping them and merging them and playing with life, and
yeah, it's
gross.
Oh, and what else is there? I mean, there's like the really sad implications on the Eldrazi werewolves. Because so you have the original werewolves who are human on one side, and then they're werewolf on the other, and then they can flip back and forth. But then Eldritch Moon gave us, so I've got the Conduit of Storms and the Conduit of Emrakul. The Conduit of Storms is a werewolf horror that you put mana into to transform it into an Eldrazi werewolf. But there's no going back.
Yeah, because normally the werewolves can go back and forth.
Exactly.
But once you go Eldrazi, you don't go back.
Yeah. So it's just kind of it's almost heartbreaking, because like Innistrad's already proven that these werewolves are sentient to some degree, because we have the Wolfear, who are people that were blessed. So they were people infected with the werewolf curse, who were like blessed by Avacyn or had Avacyn's blessing, or what. I realize I just said the same thing twice.
Hold on. Can we put this on pause? I gotta go grab my potato before it burns the house down.
Okay. And welcome back. I'm gonna cut it right after you mention that you get up to go get a potato, and then just cut it back to this part. But anyway, yeah, so the existence of the Wolfear on Innistrad is like an implication that the werewolves are somewhat sentient, because they're given the choice of if they want to give themselves to the curse and become one with it, and then they become these wolf people who they can't turn back to being human, but they
become furries.
I was trying to avoid that, but okay. But they're fully sentient. And so the idea of, now that Emrakul's influence is set in, and they're no longer human werewolves, now they're werewolf horrors who change into being Eldrazi, but can't change back. That's the end of it for them.
Their sanity is gone. Yeah, they don't just give in to the curse, they give in to the beast, and that's what they become. That's all they are from that point on.
Exactly, and I guess it's more sad.
Maybe even less than that, considering
Yeah, I guess it's more sad than it is creepy, but it's still just like, it's kind of like the Flood from Halo, where like it's just this outer being that's slowly eating away at who you are until it's just your body left and you're an empty husk.
Yeah, it is disturbing. Like, if the Eldrazi existed and you knew what they could do, you'd be like, oh god, I don't want that to happen to me. Just that dread of knowing what could happen.
Oh yeah, no, it's
It's pretty scary.
oh yeah.
There's a couple other cards that are Eldrazi themed from
do you have not
Battle for Zendikar.
Do you have Not of This World on there?
Ooh. We can talk about that one too. Let me pull that up. Ooh, not of This World. That is some cool card art.
That's the counter spell I was telling you about the other day.
Is that just a Kozilek brood that's just like, no?
Probably.
Just, no, your spell means nothing to me. It looks so weird for an Eldrazi, though.
It's almost as if it's not of this world.
Hey, I don't, like,
Yeah.
I'm not super in love with your tone right now. The two cards, Scour from Existence and Titan's Presence. So,
Peekaboo.
Scour from Existence, it could be reasonably assumed that it's just Ulamog wiping someone away or consuming them and leaving the dust behind, because that's what it looks like in the card art.
Because doesn't it exile?
Presence, yes, exile target permanent.
Yeah,
Titan's Presence.
Target permanent, so he's eating anything.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
And the card art shows I think it's...
That is Ulamog in the background, and that's a vampire being wiped away.
But it's not Tazri himself. Tazri's quoted there, but...
First off, Tazri's a woman, and second, Tazri is in the new set, so no.
Never mind. Anyways, Titan's Presence, the name and the art is more indicative of another classic cosmic horror trait for these monsters. I don't think it's Ulamog necessarily consuming the person in the card art. It's like how in classic cosmic horror, just looking at the true form of an ancient one is enough to like melt your mind and just kill you just by looking at it. And that's kind of what this looks like to me. Just someone gets too close to Ulamog and just his presence just destroys them.
If you look at the art in that one and then compare it to the art in Scour from Existence, different things
are very happening. Close to Ulamog. And yeah, exactly. They're not turning to dust. They're ripping apart. Plus it says...
that on Scour from Existence, that's a Malakir vampire.
And it's also saying exile target creature. It's not permanent. It's exile target creature. So it's specifically creatures getting too close to the Titan and just their aura of otherworldly power.
Because a land or an artifact that's looking at Ulamog, like, it's not sentient. It doesn't care. So yeah, it would make sense. Not to mention as an additional cost to cast Titan's Presence, reveal a colorless creature card from your hand. Look at this Eldrazi. It's bigger than the thing that I want to get rid of, and the thing that I want to get rid of can't handle what it's looking at.
There's a music video called Die Fantasy. I don't know if you've heard of it. I think it was mentioned on Game Grumps, so there's a chance that you've heard that. It is inspired by cosmic horror. Don't look up that video if you're under the age of 18, by the way. It's graphic, but it ends with a person going through a portal and ending up in this other world, and they look up and see this they see this ancient one that is literally, it's so far away that it looks like it's about as big as a mountain, but you can see that it has rings around it like a planet, and it's just this mass of parts, and the person, as soon as she looks at it, her eyes explode.
Send me the link to that video when we're done with this.
Sure. It's creepy, but it's certainly cosmic horror. But yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to talk about with Eldrazi, unless you wanted to talk more about it.
No, I think I got my piece in. Let's hit a little bit on Slivers, because I think you had a little bit that you wanted to talk about.
Not as much as Eldrazi, because Eldrazi are like classic cosmic horror, which is one of my big loves.
Everyone take a shot every time that Andrew says the word cosmic horror.
Thank you. First off, 2 words. But we can quickly touch on the Phyrexians as an honorable mention, because we don't have to go in depth on them, but they're horrific. They take people over and turn them into machines. And
oh yeah, actually, I wanted to talk about. I wanted to look at zombies, but I think everyone understands zombies. Instead, yeah, let's wrap things up by looking at Slivers and Phyrexians. Because, more or less what I had with zombies was, hey, you sacrifice creatures to make this zombie bigger. It's like, oh, big surprise, the zombie's eating people.
I think the Stitchers are a more interesting take on, because they're more like Frankenstein. But anyways,
yeah, that is their whole thing. But
the Slivers, yeah. I have some notes on the basic history of Slivers. Slivers were found by Volrath, who I believe is actually related to the Phyrexians. He's the shapeshifter.
He was captured and completed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he found...
the way...
Go ahead.
Real quick. Volrath... So he was born as, a regular person, and I want to say he was a Thran, but do not quote me on that one. But, no, actually, I'm going to walk that one back. I don't think he was a Thran, but he was almost like a human. And then he was, completed by the Phyrexians. And then at some point, he ended up getting challenged by Krovax to be, a leader. And he ended up losing. I'm, super, too long, didn't read all of this. But he ended up losing, and he ended up being uncompleted. They took away his, Phyrexian implants and then killed him.
Yeah. I imagine that process would just kill him. So yeah, the Slivers were first found by Volrath on an unnamed plane. At least that's what the wiki said. I don't know if the plane's been discovered yet or not as a name.
I don't think it has.
But that, I think this was... He brought them back to Wrath, which is a plane, right?
Yes.
So Volrath's not a planeswalker, though. Because the wiki didn't...
Volrath is not a planeswalker.
The wiki didn't explain how he got them to Wrath.
This is pre-mending. So they had, the Weatherlight crew, the ship itself, the Weatherlight could planeswalk. Okay. Despite the fact that on the ship, I think the Freyalise was a planeswalker. I don't think everyone on the ship was a planeswalker. I think most of them were, but I don't think all of them were. But they were still able to planeswalk because of the ship. So that's I think cool. the Phyrexia, because that's how Yawgmoth originally came to Phyrexia, as a planeswalker brought him.
Yeah.
And he was upset that he couldn't planeswalk on his own, and so I want to say that had to do with some of his experiments of him trying to get a spark.
I see.
So they used to be able to, the rules of planeswalking used to be a lot more flexible, and then the mending happened.
That makes more sense then. So yeah, Volrath brought them to Wrath to study them. Made some unspecified genetic modifications of the Slivers, and then the Slivers, they're weird. They have serpentine bodies with pointed.
The original ones do, yeah.
Pointed. Yeah, we'll get to the evolved ones later, but with pointed scythe-like heads with no features.
It's like, what if somebody took a praying mantis and took a snake and kind of mushed them together?
Yeah, and like fuse their arms together because they have one scythe arm in the middle of their chest. So
some of them
they're
have
pretty
two
weird.
arms.
Yeah, some of them do. There are exceptions, but yeah, they were used. Excuse me, sorry, my apologies. They were used to guard the legacy until the Weatherlight crew, and more specifically Karn, convinced the Sliver Queen to give him back the legacy by saying, like, the legacy is
It's a part of me.
It's a part of me the same way that your slivers are a part of you. And she was like,
wow, you're right. Most of them do only have one arm.
Most of them do, yeah. But the Sliver Queen's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and just gave him to him. Then I think they were they wiped out on that plane?
Probably. They've been like wiped out and sent to extinction like 3 times.
Yeah. They were, because the next note I have is they were found on Otaria by some wizards and brought into the Riptide Project. They were found as fossils, and they were like, hey, these are neat, let's resurrect them, because that always works out in their favor.
I saw this really cool movie in 1993, and I think this will be a good idea. Did you ever finish the movie? Nah, but it's fine. I'm pretty sure it had a happy ending.
Everything's cool. So they resurrected them, but they forgot to resurrect the queen, so the Slivers kind of went crazy and overran them, and destroyed their island that they were studying them on. And then they mistook the Mirari for their queen, and followed its signal to the mainland of Otaria. And then they were killed in an explosion that happened in whatever events were taking place there. So they were wiped out again, except for a few that eventually fused into the Sliver Overlord. So they were the... Well, okay, I'll get to the point after the next couple notes. There was a fight between the Weaver King and Lord Windgrace and Freyalise, where the Slivers who were being controlled by Lord Windgrace and Freyalise were taken by the Weaver King, who he either made a queen or took control of a queen and turned them against the Planeswalkers. And after that whole confrontation, the Slivers started to gain some sentience. There were
strong independent Slivers that didn't.
They were starting to lose the need for the queen. Then there were Slivers found on Chandalar that had evolved to be humanoid with tentacles on their heads. So those were like the later stage of Slivers. So a couple points here that make Slivers frightening is that, first off, like on the card Returned from Extinction from Modern Horizons, they keep coming back. This is a callback to how Slivers have never stayed extinct, despite having gone extinct several times.
Yeah, no, that's deeply unsettling.
Yeah, it's like, these things, even the Eldrazi don't resurrect, as far as we know. These
Smash cut to Deathless Behemoth.
I just mean...
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
But yeah, so they keep coming back, and another thing is that they keep evolving. First, they lost the need for a queen. First off, sorry, I'm a little bit jumbled here. Going back a little bit, they give each other their abilities, their keywords, and they keep...
Because they have a hive mind.
And exactly, and they keep evolving new keywords from the places around them. Like, they might gain the ability to drain someone, like take some power from them and heal themselves, like lifelink.
Because on that topic, there's a debate on whether or not they're on Alara, because the first Sliver has Cascade, and Alara is the only place that we have seen Cascade.
Yes. That is...
But it hasn't been confirmed whether or not that's actually where the first Sliver is from.
Right. It would be neat to see them come back in a bigger way. I'm hoping that they have them in Modern Horizons 2 next year, but we'll see. But yeah, they keep coming back, they keep evolving. They evolve sentience, and then they evolve to be humanoid, which...
If you're watching this in 2021, after Modern Horizons 2 has come out, come back to this video and tell us if we're wrong and stupid or if we called it.
I mean, we're gonna know.
Anyway.
But yeah, so that's what's... Because they're just... I don't know, they just look weird, and I don't know.
The implication of what they're doing, it's like body horror adjacent. Of
yes.
Just like if you've got like Cleaving Sliver standing next to Cloud Shredder Sliver, all of a sudden Cleaving Sliver is going to grow wings.
Yeah, it's horrifying because the more there are, the stronger they are, and then if you kill them all, they're gonna come back.
And especially like imagine you're like fighting a Sliver 1v1. Like I'm like in that situation of like you're fighting the Cleaver Sliver and you're like, okay, it's just got a blade arm, I can deal with that. And then Spiteful Sliver shows up behind you and you can't see it, and all of a sudden the Cleaving Sliver now has 4 arms, and you're trying to figure out why that happened. And then somewhere in the brush there's a Lancer Sliver, so his 4 arms get bigger, and you're slowly getting surrounded, and this one thing you're fighting is like evolving on the spot. It's
pretty scary.
It's like the living embodiment of the unwinnable war of no matter what you do, these things are going to evolve to beat you.
Yeah, that's always scary in pop culture. Something that just keeps changing to
because isn't that back. The whole thing with Doomsday in DC? Is that he can be killed, but if he is killed a certain way, he will eventually revive, and he is now immune to being killed in that way.
Something like that. Like he kept. He was originally made. He originally came to be the way that he was because he was thrown into like a death course a few hundred times until he just evolved to be tougher than the death obstacle course. Or something like that. He might have been thrown into a pit of monsters until he survived.
Because if that is the route that he went, then that's the idea of like, yes, you can beat it now, but you can only beat it that way once, and it's going to come back, and you will eventually run out of ways to kill it.
Like imagine if the Eldrazi came back, like Ulamog and Kozilek came back somehow, and they tried to kill them the same way and it didn't work. That would be...
now it's like, alright, we're no longer linked to the ley lines, you can't pull us in that way. You have to come to the Blind Eternities to get us now, and you can't survive in the Blind Eternities, so we win, and then they crush the plane.
Cue Kirby 64-esque space battle where like Chandra's clung to a star shooting fire at an Eldrazi.
I feel real stupid now because as we've been talking, I've just been randomly pulling up pictures of different like slivers from the original style. And yeah, I don't know how I never noticed that they all only have 1 arm. Except for ones whose abilities would imply that they have more. Because like the Spiteful Sliver, the one that when this creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target player or planeswalker. It has 4 arms, but its ability is implying that if you hurt it, it has the means to hurt you back.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, I'm looking at all of these now, and yeah, it's just one big muscly arm.
Yeah, you didn't notice that.
I didn't.
It's like one of their defining traits.
I think enough of them have multiple arms that it never really... Like, Sliver Hive Lord has 4 arms.
But that makes sense, though, because they're like an amalgamation of multiple slivers.
That's Sliver Overlord.
Mm.
Sliver Overlord is the mutant. Sliver Hive Lord is the one I have.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think we can
Not
call
much
it there.
else to say about slivers, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did a good job covering a whole bunch of like kind of the creepy implications behind like what it would be like facing down some of these creatures, what some of their abilities mean. Like Exile has become 100 times scarier now that like it's got this implication of it's being wiped from existence or it's being ripped from your head. But yeah,
Spoopy.
I think real spoopy. We've got a whole bunch of other cool. We've got some more Halloween themed stuff coming out this month. So if it hasn't already come out, be on the lookout for all of that. We've got some spooky deck techs. We've got some creepy commander countdowns for some of the more scary color combinations.
The deck techs should be the end of the month, so
sweet.
Keep an eye out for those.
So yeah, if you like what we do here, you have any suggestions for how we can improve, please, shoot us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe to us. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wednesday and Friday are kind of like set of what kind of show you're going to get. Monday has kind of been turning into a bit of a crapshoot of like, we've done a couple different things for Mondays that just because we do those ones kind of on a whim, whereas like the Wednesdays and Fridays we have everything scheduled out beforehand.
Yeah, the Mondays are more like we record them a couple days in advance, whereas the other videos are scripted and go like a month in advance. I
kind of want to play around with our Monday time slots a little bit more, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, yeah, shoot us a like, shoot us a comment, give us a sub.
Subscribe.
Maybe subscribe. At time of recording, we're almost to triple digits. We've almost hit 100, and we want to kind of do a giveaway when we do.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's gonna be kind of dumb if and when this video comes out, we're already past that. But
Andrew, always the optimist.
We'll see. Should be fine.
It's like that. This video comes out, we're down to like 12.
Everyone abandons us.
Yeah, everyone's just like, all right, we're done. You guys have had your run. Anyway.
It's like, ooh. Oh boy.
Anyway, I have been Tyler.
I'm Andrew.
And thank you for listening to us rant. We will talk to you later. Peace.
Bye.